Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome to another fun night of race talk. We have a lot of stuff to go through today. We're going to talk about our new segment, Where Are They Now? We're going to talk about Formula One, former Formula One champion Niki Lauda, and also the first NASCAR modified champion in NASCAR, Red Byron. We also have some news from the Visconti Motorsports ranks of what's going on with them for 2018. Our guest Jeff Otto was scheduled to appear as we were on our way to the studio. Unfortunately, he got stuck at work. We will reschedule Jeff. That would have been a good show, but we'll reschedule him. Got some news out of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Series. Matt Kenseth with an announcement over this weekend. And also, the National Transit Safety Board made its determination on the Ted Christopher Dundas plane crash of what probably or might have happened. And we have some new news out of the Richard Petty Motorsports camp as to who their sponsor is for the Daytona 500 and a couple of other races in 18. We'll have results from Texas Motor Speedway with the Camping World Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, as well as the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And we'll also have a little follow-up from Martinsville Speedway on some of the things that happened at that facility 2 races ago. But we're going to start right away with our new segment, Where Are They Now? Each week we're going to pick 2 competitors, former competitors or crew chiefs or members, and talk about what we did. And we're going to start off with Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda was born in February 1949 in Austria to a very wealthy family. His family despised racing, didn't want him to be involved with racing at all. But he went on anyway. He went on to Formula One. And to get involved with racing, it's not like today. If you're good and you have a sponsor, you had to show up with your own money back then. And Niki took a 30,000 pound loan from a bank secured by his life insurance policy. He wanted to buy his way into the March team, a fledgling team that had cars in Formula One and Formula 2 at the time, and he became a driver. Now, his family was still much in disapproval of this, and he had an ongoing feud with his family most of his life. Lauda took out another loan from the bank to buy his way into BRM team in 1973, again Formula 2 cars. And then Lauda took out another bank loan to buy into another team. And he continued to finance his racing through bank loans in the beginning. His big break came when BRM teammate Clay Regazzoni left the team to rejoin Ferrari, which he had driven for. And that put Niki Lauda in a great position in 1974. And team owner Enzo Ferrari asked his new driver at Ferrari what he thought of this Lauda kid. And he spoke so favorably of Lauda that Ferrari promptly signed him, paying him enough money to clear all his debts and his bank loans. 1975 Formula One season started slowly for Lauda, and he had no better than a 5th place finish in the first 4 races, and then he won 4 out of the next 5, driving for the new Ferrari team. Niki Lauda also in 1976, a week before the 1976 German Grand Prix at Nuremberg, Even though he was one of the fastest cars on the circuit, he tried to convince his fellow competitors to boycott the race, largely because of the 23 kilometers or 14-mile racetrack, its safety arrangements, citing the organizers' lack of resources to properly manage such a large circuit. There were no fire marshals, the safety equipment was mediocre at best, and there weren't enough trained medical people. Most of the drivers voted against the boycott, and the race went on. So on August 1st, 1976, during the second lap of a very fast left kink turn, Lauda was involved in an accident where his Ferrari swerved off the track, hit an embankment, burst into flames, and made contact with Brett Longo's Ford. This almost killed him. He was burned severely. His helmet, the foam inside his helmet melted, causing his helmet to fall off, burning Lauda's skull, his skull cap. His ear was basically burned off, and he had third-degree burns throughout most of his body. Lauda returned to racing 6 weeks later, still wearing the bandages that were covering his burns. Lauda also continued to race on, and to the surprise of many people, he was disfigured, and in his own words, that first race back, he was actually scared. Lauda went on to win championships in the Formula One series 3 times, 1975, 77, and 84, and he's the only driver in Formula One history to be a champion for both Ferrari, and McLaren, the top 2 teams in the Formula One series. After Niki Lauda left Formula One racing, he went on to form Lauda Air, an airline in Austria that he is an owner of, and he also had a smaller airline called Niki Air. He was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 1993, and since 1996 he has provided commentary on Grand Prix for Austria and German television. He was also inducted into the International Hall of Fame for auto racing. Niki Lauda, he wrote books afterwards, and he is still running his airline in Austria. If anybody has not seen that movie Rush, which has to do with Niki Lauda, came out about 5 years ago, look it up, go see it, rent it, DVR, find it somewhere. It was an awesome, awesome movie. In fact, one of the best racing movies I have ever seen, and I've seen them all. Our next driver, where are they now, is Red Byron. Obviously, Red Byron is no longer with us. He was born in 1915, passed on November 11th, 1960, only 45 years of age. He was one of those hard guys. He was successful in NASCAR competition in the sanctioning's first and early years. He was NASCAR's first modified champion, which the Top Series was called when NASCAR formed in 1948. And he is also the first champion in any division that NASCAR has had. Born in Colorado, he moved to Alabama at an early age and began racing in 1932. And he also had to leave racing to serve in the United States Army Air Force as a flight engineer during World War II, flying B-24s. And in flying those B-24s, he was also shot down, never captured, and suffered a serious leg injury that the doctors helped partially repair, and in all rights may have and should have been amputated, but it was not. Before World War II, though, Byron raced in the AAA Indy Series, mainly in sprint cars and midgets. He also, in 1948, became a part of the newly formed NASCAR Modified Series, driving for famous car owner Raymond Parks. Byron began racing in NASCAR's newly formed Strictly Stock division in 1949, and became the Grand National Series. the Winston Cup, and in the modern-day Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And declining health forced him to hang up his goggles in 1951, but he remained working in racing. He worked for Briggs Cunningham, who was trying to develop an American sports car, and then became manager of a Corvette team with the same goal. Neither project succeeded, but Byron continued to enjoy sports car. Like I said in the beginning, he died at the age of 45 of a heart attack while he was managing a team of the Sports Car Club of America. Red Byron, one of the pioneers of our sport that we call stock car racing. Two great race drivers, two great people. And although Red Byron's career was short, he was inducted into NASCAR Hall of Fame, and he was also honored as in 1998 to be considered one of the top 50 drivers in NASCAR. So we'll have little segments of that like that every week. Moving forward, we'll pick two drivers, owners, crew chiefs, officials, people who made our sport what it was. And it's funny, you look back and see what some of these people did after their racing careers. Speaking of racing careers, a new team is entering the NASCAR K&N Pro Series ranks for 2018. John Visconti, the former owner of a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour team from Long Island, has formed an alliance with Tommy Baldwin Racing to run a partial season with Brandon McReynolds behind the wheel. McReynolds has made 18 career NASCAR K&N Pro Series starts per Team 51's TheThirdTurn.com. His most recent 3 starts came with Tommy Baldwin in 2016. The 26-year-old legendary crew chief of Fox Sports commentator and former crew chief of the late Dale Earnhardt has been working recently as a driver coach for NASCAR Camping World Truck Series driver Noah Gragson. Now McReynolds will finally get his chance to get back behind the wheel. The 74 machine will be sponsored by IGA Food Markets, who has been a longtime supporter of Visconti's racing career from when he began racing legend cars in the INEX series at Riverhead's Raceway on Long Island. Visconti's team made spot starts in 2017 in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, as well as in the weekly ranks at the Riverhead Raceway the last few years. As speaking with John over the weekend, John said, this was an opportunity I could not pass up. They all say that you're given an opportunity, and whether you take that opportunity or not, it's a decision you have to make internally. And some people might not be happy with a decision that an individual makes, especially in our racing business. And I say business. Racing is a business. It's a hobby to many. It's something you do on a Friday night, a Saturday night, or a Sunday. But John Visconti is a different type of race car team owner. To John, it's a business. And he was given an opportunity to grow his business. Yeah, he was in INEX Legend Cars. Yeah, he fielded a crate mod at the Riverhead Raceway on Long Island. Yeah, he ran some tour races with hopes of running for the Rookie of the Year title with his driver C.J. Lehman in 2018. But opportunity knocked. And like he said, it might not knock again. So he agreed to take on this team. And it's an established team with a driver, a crew, equipment, you name it, they got it. And you can't pass something like that up. The plan for Visconti and McReynolds is to start the season off at the New Smyrna Speedway in Florida for the opening race of the K&N Pro Series East and run whatever races possible that will not conflict with McReynolds' obligations to Noah Gragson. They believe that'll give him 5 to 7 starts and with the potential to run more. Now, Gragson is being coached by McReynolds in the Camping World Truck Series, and I'm sure that this opportunity for McReynolds moving forward in 2019, where he'll be available, I'm sure, to run a full season and possibly run for Rookie of the Year. Now, decisions like this are sometimes not popular with the group that you're involved with or your local racetrack or people on the tour, the modified tour, who are looking to start pushing this kid and touting him as a Rookie of the Year contender. But like I said earlier in the discussion, when you have an opportunity to move up to a touring series that the next step is the top 3, you can't pass that up. Tommy Baldwin Racing is very successful, although some people might not see that because of the lack of sponsorship that they had in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. But Tommy Baldwin never took his hands out of racing, and Tommy Baldwin believes in the little guy, and Tommy Baldwin believes that with this partnership or dealings with John Visconti III on Long Island, moving the operation to Concord, North Carolina, is a good mix for everybody involved. And when you take a kid like Brandon McReynolds and you put all your faith and hope in him, that tells the team, hey, somebody believes in us. And when you believe in somebody, the energy levels just go way out here. Unfortunate for C.J. Lehman, who is now searching for a ride for 2018. C.J. Lehman is good enough to get a ride somewhere. I'm sure he can do that. But John Visconti had to do this. And you know, I consider John a friend, and I only wish him the best in 2018 with his new team, his new endeavor, and I look for more to come out of Visconti Motorsports. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's that? Oh, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Off, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
Hi, welcome back. Hey, some news out of NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour ranks. Been quiet since the World Series at the Thompson Motorsports Park in Connecticut. But NASCAR recently announced that Calvin Carroll is the NASCAR Whelen Modified Rookie of the Year for 2017. It was announced yesterday, and Carroll, a resident of Andover, New Jersey, will only get better. And when I say better, he was 12th in the points in 16 events in 2017, a young kid. And I didn't watch live a lot of NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour events, but when I saw this car going to racetrack number 39, I have a little bit of sentimental feelings for car number 39. It's the car that my Uncle John raced at ISO Speedway and Riverhead Raceway for many years. It's also the number of a good friend of mine, Roger Oxley, who's retired from the racing ranks and also had sold his late model operation to John Visconti, who is taking ownership of the equipment for the late model. Not sure what's going to happen with it at this time with this move into the K&N Pro Series each. But I watched him, and the kid was smooth. And it's a tough, competitive field, the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Group, with 15 or 16 or so regulars, with 50-plus drivers taking at least one green flag in 2017. And I don't recall any race that I saw that Calvin Carroll tore it up. He's smooth, he's aggressive, yet confident. His aggression is done at the right time. So congratulations to Calvin Carroll on his Rookie of the Year honor. And we look forward to seeing him, and I'm going to say in Victory Lane, probably in 2018. Also, the 2013 Monster Energy Series champion, Matt Kenseth, announced Saturday that he does not expect to race full-time in 2018. This comes after 18 series of competition. Kenseth, who was 45 years old, is not calling this a retirement. He just wants to spend some time with his family, according to NBCSports.com. The move, though, may have come about due to Joe Gibbs Racing having already replaced Kenseth in the 20 car with 21-year-old Eric Jones for 2018. And, you know, when you're in a position where they replaced you, and they announced that early, all right? They announced that early. And here you are, it's a couple of races left, and nobody's knocked on your door. Nobody's called you. Nobody gave you an opportunity, not even to go down into Xfinity. So you know what? Just take a step back. And you know, the way I see this is going to go down is in 2018, you know, it happens all the time. Somebody's not going to be able to make an event, whether there's a family situation, an injury, something personal, a suspension, who knows. I'm sure Kenseth will be the release driver or the cover driver for somebody in 18. Who knows what 19 is going to bring, but, you know, Kenseth is 45 years old, and you know, it's not like the old days. It's not like in the 70s where drivers raced into their 50s and 60s, you know, like Richard Petty, Harry Gant, you know, guys like that, Jimmy Spencer, old guys that kept on racing. These young guys today have enough money stashed away that they can go do something else or live off of their investments. So I wish Matt Kenseth well. I hope to see him back in racing. He's a gentleman. He represents the sport in a very positive way. So it'd be good to see him not retire, as he says, but to just take a break from racing. And with the departure of Dale Earnhardt Jr., some of the names from our last 20 years of watching racing are starting to retire, move on to other things. So we'll see what happens. And talking about seeing what happens, the National Transit Safety Board preliminary report on the Ted Christopher plane crash said the plane plunged into 75 feet worth of pine trees, the landing gear still out. So they don't know if that was a mechanical thing, the landing gear didn't come up, but that's what put the plane down. And the plane was nose down, facing the ground, did not hit the ground. It was kind of hanging in the trees. And one of the wings was off. It was a prop plane. One of the three blades on the prop was broken off. The pilot, Mr. Dundas, was strapped into his seat, whereas TC, Ted Christopher, was not. Now, Ted Christopher was one of those guys who safety at the always. And I don't see Ted not having his seatbelt off. I'm only speculating here. What I'm thinking what happened in that plane is his pilot had some kind of medical emergency. Teddy unbuckled to help him, and the plane went down. Teddy was thrown from the plane, according to the reports that I saw, but the medical examiner ruled the deaths as accidental, caused by blunt trauma. I'm sure there'll be more coming out on this, but that was a preliminary report. And it's a shame that tragedy happened. But life goes on, and it's a shame that all the races and all the laps, that all the tracks and all the series that Teddy competed in to perish on his way to a racetrack is kind of mind-boggling. But he's up there at Heaven's Motor Speedway with a bunch of his friends and guys and gals he competed with along the way in his long racing career in every series there is, including the 24 Hours of Daytona. But when you look back at the tragedies in our sport, every tragedy in our sport has come about due to something that we couldn't plan for. We go back to when they decided to put seatbelts in race cars. If you watch old racing movies, these guys just jumped in these things with their dress pants, their shirt. Some of them still had their tie on. They put on this leather thing on top of their head. They rolled up their sleeves and they went racing. And when these cars crashed, they were thrown from the cars. So the people who looked at the safety race and decided, you know what? We're going to put seatbelts in these cars so they don't get thrown from these cars. So they took seatbelts out, especially after the 40s. There was a lot of seatbelts and a lot of airplanes sitting on the ground doing nothing at the military board. And they used those type of seatbelts, the military belt. Well, what was happening? When these cars got turned over or slid on their sides into the wall, because the drivers were belted in, they couldn't get out, and their heads were hitting the pavement, the wall, or the cars. So what was next? The roll bar. And what came after that? The roll cage. Then with Dan McTavit's tragic crash at Daytona, I believe it was in 1966, when he was hit and the front end of the car was ripped off at the fire roll. What came next? Grand National bars. Richard Petty's flip and roll over and over again. I believe it was at Darlington, where his arm was out of the car, the driver's side window. It brought about window nets. The parts coming through the windshield of race cars and almost killing drivers. They put a bar in to stop that. I can go on and on with all the safety advances that racing has made from a tragedy. Unfortunately, somebody had to pass or be severely injured to come up with these safety ideas, but that's how it happens. It's a trial and error. It's like, what did we do when we were trying to fly into space? How many men and women sacrificed their lives so we could go to the next level in space? Racing is the same thing. Hopefully nobody gets hurt, nobody gets injured, nobody dies. We don't want that to happen. But sometimes it does, and the engineers and the people sit back and say, we should do that. We should do that. And there's so many changes that have come about in the sport over the years that have made our cars safer, the drivers safer, impact bars that collapse, things of that nature, shields, plates, things that keep the drivers safe today. The new seats. Years ago, they raced in the same seat that was in the passenger car, and they put a bar behind it so it wouldn't move. Now you have these racing seats, and you're not moving. Your head's not moving. You're lucky you could turn your steering wheel. Designed for you, based on your size, your width, your height, and that's what's coming on. And we'll never be able to control somebody who unfortunately gets killed in a plane crash or has a car accident or their hauler gets run off on the freeway and they crash. We'll never be able to control that, but we are controlling the controllables in our sport that we call racing. And when you look back at all the changes, the evolution of a race car, go to the NASCAR Hall of Fame and look at the early cars. And look at the cars from the 50s and you're wondering like, huh? And then you look at the cars of today and how they've evolved. It used to be you took the car out of the showroom, You taped up the headlights. You put a pipe behind the seat so you didn't, when the adjuster broke, it didn't go back. And you put tape on the steering wheel and maybe a little pad, and that's all they did. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to talk about some of the things that went on this weekend down in Texas when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Less Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Master. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, Texas Motor Speedway, a cookie-cutter mile-and-a-half racetrack buried down in Texas. Well, Kurt Busch, he set a new track record in qualifying at the reconfigured Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. He turned a lap in qualifying of 200.915 miles an hour. 200 miles an hour. Now, a mile-and-a-half racetrack. You look at Daytona, Talladega, Michigan, where it's 2.5 miles, 2 miles, Talladega 2.1, was it 666 miles around. When you look at that, with restrictor plates, they're barely touching that kind of speed. So what's NASCAR going to do? On a mile-and-a-half racetrack, 200 miles an hour. That's not good. So are they going to restrict the plate these cars next year? I don't know. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but I'll tell you what. I like that. I like that the driver controls the car. I like that the horsepower makes you race. I don't like in a line, bumper to bumper, somebody goes out and gets freight trained by half the field. That drafting, I don't like. That's not my kind of. I like to see side by side, passing, moving in and out, 3 wide, which I saw at Texas this weekend. I like to see that. And at 200, almost 201 miles an hour, on a, like I said, a mile-and-a-half reconfigured racetrack is incredible. You know, these cars go to the wind tunnel. They do everything they possibly can to eliminate drag. NASCAR has an aero package with the downforce in these things that is incredible. But they've also, when you have this, and for those who aren't engineers in aerodynamics, think about it at 200 miles an hour, the wind's going at you. And the wind is hitting the hood of the car and the windshield and going up and over. But the downforce that's on the back of the car, because of the way the wind goes, pushes it down, so it gets it lower to the ground, less air gets underneath the race car. Now you put two of them together, bumper to bumper, which you didn't see too much of at this past weekend between the Xfinity and the Monster Energy Cup guys. But when that happens, you're going a little bit faster. Now, I didn't look at the lap times for during the race, but I'm sure there were some laps that were over 200 miles an hour as well. Yeah, there's probably some that at 190. But when you look at that, when you're going down the backstretch, you come into turn 3, and you're around 198, 199, and you got to make that turn on this reconfigured racetrack. Think about what's going through their heads. Like, wow, is there more? Because I'm willing to bet they're not flat-footed, not like they are at Daytona and Talladega, where I don't think they lift at all, unless they're pulling up to somebody and they bring it up a little bit. 200 miles an hour, mile-and-a-half racetrack, love it. I just hope that the powers that be at NASCAR do not restrict the plate these mile-and-a-half cookie-cutter tracks in 2018, because it's going to take away from some good hard racing. But hey, congratulations, Kurt Busch, breaking that record, almost 201 miles an hour. Awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations. Also, Richard Petty Motorsports, number 43 car, which we announced last week will be driven by Darrell Wallace Jr., will be sponsored by clickandclose.com for the Daytona 500, Phoenix Raceway, and the Texas Motor Speedway. Clickandclose.com is a division of Mid-America Mortgage Incorporated. Click and Close will also become the official mortgage company of NASCAR. Wow. So there's 36 races. They got sponsorship for 3. There's going to be more than that. And when you see this, they've also became the official mortgage company of NASCAR. I'm sure NASCAR had a little bit to do with getting a sponsor for the 43 team. Think about it, folks, and there's no secret that Richard Petty Motorsports and Richard Petty is my team. Richard Petty, I've been watching him, for almost 50 years. His race cars, his son, even his grandson. And the Richard Petty name isn't what it once was. Think about this now. Richard Petty's been out of the sport, 25 years now as a competitive driver. And he has not, when I say him, his teams have not lived up to any potential where that you would say, if you had to pick a top 5 every week, that anybody would put the 43 as one of the top 5s. In fact, you might not even put the 43 in the top 10. So now to try to get a sponsorship deal for a car that's running mid-pack, and I don't mean this in any negative way at all, but to find a sponsor who's going to put up $30 million, let's say, for a full season sponsorship for a mid-pack car, even though it's Richard Petty, is going to be difficult to do. And here's why I say that. Because the decision makers that are sitting in the boardroom who are making these decisions, and the guys and gals signing the checks for these things, probably never saw Richard Petty do one lap. Young people. They don't understand the history of our sport. They don't understand what our sport is. They don't understand that the brand recognition associated with NASCAR is big. And I say that, from an insider's point of view, back when UPS got involved with NASCAR. The powers to be at UPS and these young kids in the marketing department, fresh out of college with their masters in marketing, they did not even know who any of the drivers were. They had no idea. And yet, they started to understand that when they started watching events. They started to understand that when they saw what was going on in our sport, when other companies were becoming the official whatever of NASCAR and growing their business from that. The express package delivery service, official express package delivery service of NASCAR back in those days was UPS. UPS made a lot of money from that sponsorship deal. And as Bubba Wallace had said in one of the interviews, he said that this click and close situation is so simple that he just bought a house a year or so ago, and he said he had to read through a stack of papers, and he's signing and reading and signing to get his mortgage. He goes, now you go online, boom, 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 done, here's your money. Of course, if you qualify. So I think this click and close sponsorship, I believe that once they see the value of their sponsorship, I believe there's going to be more races on the 43 with click and close. And I also see Smithfield Foods kind of still hanging on as an associate, because there's rules and contracts about drivers leaving teams and taking their sponsors with them. You know, unfortunately, it might end up to be a legal battle, but Richard Petty is a Southern gentleman. I've had the opportunity to sit with him on multiple occasions and just talk racing. And he's old school. He's old school. You know, you shake his hand and say, we're going to do something, it's a done deal. Yeah, the tempers were flying when they announced that we're going to Stuart Haas, Smithfield, that is. And some things were said on both sides that maybe, you know, cooler heads would prevail, and they did. So Smithfield is probably going to be still a part of Richard Petty Motorsports moving forward in 2018. That still remains to be seen. There's a lot going on, a lot of negotiations with RPM and potential sponsors. You're going to see a handful of 3, 4, 5 race deals moving forward, and what that's good for is for diecast sales. I mean, because if that's your guy and you want to have the diecast, you're going to buy every single one there is. So I wish him well. I'm very happy for Darrell Wallace and Richard Petty Motorsports. I think that's a good makeup, a good team. And to start fresh out of the box, like I said last week, you're going to see maybe that you're going to say, hey, who's going to be in the top 10? And I think you're going to start putting the 43 in the top 10 in some of your race picks moving forward. So it's a good deal, and I want to welcome clickandclose.com to the NASCAR ranks, and we'll see how that works out. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back, we'll have the results from the Texas Motor Speedway down in Texas for the Camper World, the Xfinity, and the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Mark Weller. We're some of the Proto Men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're punching the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Texas Motor Speedway, the newly configured Texas Motor Speedway, had the Camper World Truck Series there this past weekend. And the results went something like this. I know last week I think I read the points first and the results second, but the Johnny Sauter was the winner in the Camper World Truck Series. Austin Cindric was second, Christopher Bell third, followed by Chase Briscoe. Justin Haley was fifth, Kaz Gralla was sixth, Grant Enfinger, 7th. Ryan Truex, 8th. Matt Crafton, 9th. And Noah Gregson rounding out the top 10. The standings right now with their playoff system, the top 6 is Christopher Bell is leading the series standings, followed by Johnny Sorter, who is 4 points behind. Matt Crafton is 3rd, 31 points behind. Austin Cindric, 50 points down in 4th. Ben Rhodes is 55 points down in 5th. And John Hunter Nemechek has that last playoff spot as we speak right now. The Xfinity Series was also at the Texas Motor Speedway. And Eric Jones was the winner there, followed by Ryan Blaney. Kyle Larson, 3rd. Elliott Sadler, 4th. Cole Custer was 5th. Christopher Bell, 6th. Brennan Poole was 7th. Matt Tifft, 8th, followed by William Byron in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 was Austin Dillon. The standings in that series in their playoffs, Elliott Sadler with a 5-point lead over William Byron, followed by Justin Allgaier, who was 9 points back. Brennan Poole, 24 back. Matt Tifft, 29 back. Cole Custer, 37 back. Daniel Hemrick, 42 back. And Ryan Reed, 57 points back. In the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, was held also at the Texas Motor Speedway. Kevin Harvick was the winner there, followed by Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin was 3rd. Matt Kenseth, 4th. Brad Keselowski, followed by Ryan Blaney. Then Joey Logano. Chase Elliott was 8th. Kurt Busch, 9th. And Eric Jones rounding out the top 10. As we look at the points, with one race left to go at the Phoenix Raceway in Arizona, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick are 3 of the 4 locked in due to their victories in this session of the playoffs, with Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and Jimmy Johnson rounding out the rest of the playoff contenders. What it will take for this to get into the final round at the Homestead Speedway in Miami, Florida, is Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, or Jimmy Johnson have to either win, or Brad Keselowski has a decent enough finish with the points that'll make him one of the 4 as they move into Homestead, Miami for the final race to determine the champion of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. My bet is on Martin Truex Jr. to take this all down when Miami's checkered flag drops. Some of these teams, what I believe they should do, at least the guys who are clinched, I think they should go to Phoenix, race like they would race, but don't take any crazy chances. Keep the equipment in one piece, keep themselves in one piece, build on that confidence level that they have, practice their pit stops, because let's face it, an error or a mistake on pit road could cost you. And basically, the champion, once the final 4 are determined, the champion is going to be the guy who finishes the best out of those 4. Really doesn't matter what everybody else does. Doesn't matter. But the final 4 moving into Miami will determine the champion of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And again, like I said, my bottom dollar is on Truex Jr. He's just been incredible this year, and we'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, Martinsville. Do a little follow-up in Martinsville. And what happened with Martinsville? We talked last week about what went on between Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott. We talked about Hamlin punting Chase Elliott out of the lead, and I'm sure he didn't mean to punt him, but he did. I think he just tried to shake the kid up so he can go underneath and take the lead, but that's not what happened. Well, the race ends. What does Chase do? He goes driving and puts Denny Hamlin in the wall. Now, This is NASCAR's take on this. NASCAR Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer Steve O'Donnell reiterated that the NASCAR series officials did not feel a penalty was warranted to Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott for their activities during the race and after the race. Hamlin's aggressive punt of Elliott's post-race and hit of Chase at the end, O'Donnell said, and was quoted, as saying, "You're at a short track and not at high speed. For us, that was just a part of Martinsville." Wow. Now, that's like going to your local racetrack and something like that happens and says, let it go, just part of racing. What they've done, NASCAR, in not doing some kind of penalty here, and Chase Elliott is not in the championship chase. Could he be with a win? Absolutely. And Denny Hamlin is already locked in with a win. A penalty wouldn't have hurt these teams in the points. It would not have hurt them. It would have sent a message to say, hey guys, come on, we can't be doing this. We can't be wrecking each other. And what Chase Elliott did when he hit Denny Hamlin and pushed him up against the fence, Denny's window net was down. I'm going to go on a limb here and say I'm sure his belts are off too. And why do drivers think that's an okay thing to do, is to hit somebody when the race is over? It happened to one of my race cars here on Long Island, where my driver the race was over, and one of the other drivers drove across the track and tried to hit him in the left front wheel as it was against the fence, pulling into the pit area. And my driver saw him coming and just gassed him and got out of the way, and he only got sheet metal. But as the officials told me that they didn't see that, and the race was over anyway. But when you see something like that, man, think about this. You're sitting in the office on Monday or Tuesday, and you're discussing this. You're absolutely 100% correct. This is what Steve O'Donnell said. The officials at the time in charge of the event did not make a call. Okay, how many decisions are made after a race where they've decided to penalize somebody for instigating an argument or a fight or a loose lug nut or something after the fact? They could have sat down and said, all right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to save face here. We're going to dock them 20 team points or 20 owner points. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have hurt either driver. Because at this point in the playoffs, Chase Elliott, he's got to win. He's got to win to get in. As does Jimmy Johnson or Ryan Blaney or Denny Hamlin. They got to win to get in. So it wouldn't have hurt them points-wise. Not in the big scheme of things. You can't allow this stuff to happen. And why do I say that? Well, because let's just say, for argument's sake, Denny Hamlin was like removing his steering wheel. Put it on the dashboard. He gets hit, and his chest goes through the post. Don't get me wrong, that's the worst case scenario. And Chase Elliott is a young guy. He comes from a good family. His father, Bill Elliott, was named most popular driver a gazillion times in his day, has the record of 212 miles per hour in a qualifying event. But I did notice, and my hat's off to him, when he got out of his race car and Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott were toe-to-toe, all he said was, "You wrecked me. You wrecked me." And that's all he kept saying. And Hamlin was trying to, talk. And anybody who's ever raced in a race car and has been involved in some kind of altercation on a racetrack, your emotions are like out there. And sometimes you just want to rip their throat out. Sometimes you want to, pick them up and bang them into the ground. Sometimes you want to instigate it so the crews end up fighting and, you step back. But been in that situation where, you're running kind of decent and somebody, takes you out. And then, I could talk about a time where, that kind of happened to me. And not that I was winning, but I was in the top 5. And with a couple to go, I got sent and dumped. And I was all upset with the guy behind me, and then it all calms down. I went home and watched my video, and I got all fired up again. It's a passion. It's what we do. And it's going to be interesting at Phoenix, and it's going to be more interesting at Miami for the last event. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, some stuff going on coming up. The Turkey Derby at the Wall Township Speedway down on the Jersey Shore, Thanksgiving weekend. It's always a nice event. Sometimes it's pretty doggone cold, and sometimes it's not. But I think that's a good event for everybody that is within a 6-hour drive to go check out. It's always a good weekend. So. With that being said, I want to thank everybody again. And a shame for those who logged in or signed in to see Jeff Otto. Jeff got stuck at work. We will reschedule Jeff at a later date. He was all disappointed that he could not be here. But when you're a race car driver and you're young, you got to work, and you can't tell your boss, I got to go. So Jeff will be back at a later date. Anyway. So wherever your endeavors are going to take you this week, I ask everybody to be careful, be safe, give somebody a hug, tell them you love them, God bless you all, and we will see you next week. Good night, all.